What's up, guys? It's Solo back with another video on Solo Hoops. And as we know, the Indiana Pacers went on a crazy red hot run through the NBA in-season tournament. They were red hot. They were insane to basically start the year, but then they kind of cooled down. But now they are back on track after they just got two back-to-back wins against Giannis, Dame, and the Milwaukee Bucks. This is their third time beating them this year, so we gotta seriously talk about the Pacers now. So if we look at the Pacers season so far, they have a ton of big wins. They also have some, big losses as well. They start off with a pretty big win against the Cavs. I mean, I'm just saying, like, these are contending teams. Maybe not the Cavs this year because of all their injuries and stuff they're dealing with, but right here, they take a bad L to Boston. They beat the Cavs again. We keep going. They have their first win against Milwaukee. They split against the Sixers. Continue on. Then they beat the Heat after they lost to them. They beat the Celtics, and this is in the in-season tournament right here. So they beat the Celtics, they beat the Bucks, then they ended up losing to the Lakers, which I don't know why, but the game is all the way down here. Obviously, they lost in the finals of the in-season tournament. But to get through the Celtics, to get through the Bucks in, you could say a playoff-like atmosphere is nothing to kind of just blink at. Like that definitely means something. They do lose a game to the Bucks here, but what I really want to focus on is the last two games where I thought for sure that this would probably be a split. I'm saying the Pacers would win one, the Bucks would win the other, but no. After the Pacers won the first game, I was like, all right, bet Giannis is probably about to go off. I think the second one was actually in Indy, so that definitely makes it tougher for the Bucks to win. But I was like, all right, yeah, nah, it's probably going to even out. I'm saying the Bucks are going to fight back, going to win. But no, the Pacers end up winning two straight. The first one, in my opinion, this is just my analysis of the game, I think the Pacers won because of their bench play. I mean, we could take a look at the box score. I don't think it's going to really be fitting on the screen perfectly. Yeah, it's really not. But they got really good bench play out of Obi Toppin off the bench, Isaiah Jackson, and Benedict Mathurin gave him 25 off the bench. So I think in the first game, it just came down to bench play. Their depth just out-depthed the Bucks. And then in the second game, I think it just came down to the Pacers outplaying the Bucks. Halliburton, of course, had an insane game, but overall, the team just shot better than the Bucks did. We got to talk about the Pacers in the present, what I'm saying, what they're doing now, but also the future. This season, the playoffs, moving forward, are there potential trades? I have a solid trade that, the Pacers have been looking at that maybe you guys didn't hear about. Obviously, as I said, Halliburton's been tearing it up. That's kind of obvious. Most people already know that. But just to recap, last night against the Bucks in the 142-130 win, Halliburton had 31 points, 2 boards, 12 assists, and a plus minus of plus 21. So they were just dominating whenever he was out there. Taking a quick look at Halliburton's game log, he's been doing absolutely historical stuff. And this is a team, we're going to talk about this more in a second, but this is a team that goes when Halliburton does. Like if Halliburton is having really like a bad game or just, not a Halliburton type game, this team is more than likely going to lose. And there are a few other teams where when their superstar isn't playing the best, they can still really win. They have a good chance, like say the Celtics. I think when Tatum isn't having the best game, has 10 points, they can still win. But the Pacers, I don't know if they're really winning when Halliburton has a bad game, but luckily for them, he hasn't been having bad games. So, I mean, look at this, 31-12 last night, 26-11 before that. And then he started doing historical things, back-to-back 20-point, 20 assist games. First one since, who was it? Stockton? I don't know. It might not have been him. I think it was Stockton though. But yeah, that's insane. 22-23 is crazy. 21-20, just the run that Halliburton's been having this season. You can see, look, he's an off game here, 8 points, 11 assists, which is an off game for him, and they lose by 24 to the Clippers. So I mean, yeah, he's just got to play insane. And even here, look, they lose. He is 44-10 and they lose to the Heat. So even when he goes absolutely nuclear like that, like they still have a chance of losing. I mean, any team does. You never know what the rest of your team can do. The title of this video is going to be something like the Pacers are gonna win the NBA Finals. Obviously, that is a crazy statement. Do I actually think that? No, but let's talk about it. So when it comes to the playoffs, if you've been watching this channel, I don't know how many times I've mentioned it. I haven't even been posting on this channel for a month yet, but I'm a big believer in experience mattering when it comes to the playoffs. I'm a Warriors fan as well. That's the team that I feel like has a big edge when it comes to the playoffs. Even if they get in as just an 8th seed or a 7th seed, they're a team you don't want to play because they've been there. Steph's been there, Clay, Draymond, Looney, all these guys have been there. And I feel like playing in a playoff type atmosphere, there's a lot on the line. The crowd is different. The atmosphere is different. I feel like some players, especially if it's their first playoff game, first playoff series, they're going to be a little nervous. Maybe not as the game gets going, but to start, they're going to be nervous. Whereas Steph, who's been in the playoffs for how many years? 10 seasons. He's used to it. You know what I'm saying? That's another thing that made, you know, in football, Tom Brady so great. It seemed like was never under pressure in these big moments where you're going up against these other people where it might be their first time. So Halliburton, the Pacers overall, I don't know if they really have anybody that has playoff experience for real. I mean, we're going to look at the roster in a second, but that's one thing that definitely concerns me. There's actually a few things. We're going to get into another one, but one main thing is playoff experience matters in my opinion. But something the Pacers do have is a little bit of that with the in-season tournament. I mean, they beat the Celtics. The atmosphere is kind of comparable to the playoffs, but it is only one game. They beat the Celtics, then they beat the Bucks, then they ended up losing to the Lakers in the in-season tournament final. That is kind of comparable to a playoff-like atmosphere, but you know, they beat the Celtics in one game. It's a one-off. Is it an outlier? Who knows? If you play the Celtics in a 7-game series, I don't know how that's going to go. Now, play the Bucks in a 7-game series. Again, I think things change when it gets to the playoffs. Obviously, they're 3-1 this season against the Bucks. So, yeah, it looks like they could compete with them. They you know, potentially could beat them in a 7-game series. But I think things are different come playoff time. If that was the matchup, I would pick the Bucks. But I could see why some people are believing in the Pacers, and they have like every right to. The Pacers have been really proving themselves this year, and it's going to be a really fun team to watch come playoff time. I actually misspoke. The Pacers have beaten the Bucks 4 times this season, including the back-to-back they just had, the in-season tournament, and there was one other game. And they questioned Giannis after the game last night. So I want to play y'all what he said in case, you know, you guys didn't see it, which most of you guys probably didn't see it because it's just a little Twitter video. But yeah.
You have that, and you think about it. Now, when you go back home and you sleep and you wake up, you think about it. Now, when you go back and work out, you think about it. You know, when you're about to get freaky at night, you think about it. You know, but at the end of the day, it's good because now it gives us time to fix things. Are you?
So, I mean, I feel like Giannis is obviously kind of trolling. He's not giving too serious of an answer, except for what he said at the very end, where it's good that it's happening now, early in the season, essentially in December, January, because that gives you time to adjust. And against a team like the Bucks, I mean, that's not really a good thing. I feel like you don't want to give a team with this type of star power, this type of, I mean, we could say playoff experience. Giannis, he's won a ring. Chris Middleton, this team's got some guys that have that experience. And yeah, I mean, I feel like come playoff time, if they were to match up, I feel like the Bucks would make the necessary adjustments. Would I be absolutely shocked if the Pacers took them out? No. Whenever we talk about these NBA teams and we're saying, how far will they go in the playoffs? Can they win it all? We always got to take a look at the current roster construction. We obviously have Halliburton at the top, then we got Miles Turner, and then after that, it's just a lot of depth, but it's a lot of solid depth. You got Mathurin, Buddy Hield, Bruce Brown, Obi Toppin, Naismith's been solid. Jalen Smith has been solid in the minutes he gets. Nembhard's been solid. He's dealing with an injury, but he's been solid as well. TJ McConnell has also been solid, but these are just kind of like average guys, like nothing, you know, nothing you get too happy about. Isaiah Jackson also has been solid. What do you have? 18 points 2 games ago against the Bucks. The rest of the lineup doesn't really get much minutes, but this is a team that I think they have one star, really, Halliburton. I don't look at Miles Turner as that second star. Yeah, he's the second best player on this team, and it's not really close. But with a lot of these teams, like say the Lakers, they got LeBron and AD. The, you know, Celtics, Tatum and I guess Jaylen Brown, even though they kind of got like 4 or 5 guys there. You look at the Bucks, Giannis, Dame, they always got a second guy. So if one guy's not going, you know, having the best game, another one could pick him up. With the Pacers, I don't really know if that's the case. If Halliburton, like we saw before, has a game where he drops 8 points and 11 assists or whatever, is Miles Turner gonna go for 30, 35 points? I don't really think so. Now, they do have some kind of like scorchers or whatever you want to say, players that can get red hot off the bench. Like, well, I don't know if they're off the bench or starting. They're always changing the lineup, but you know, you got Mathurin, you got Buddy Hield, you got Bruce Brown. You know, some of these guys can go off, but I think the Pacers kind of need to bring in another second option or another star. And there is a big trade rumor kind of circling around the Pacers right now. Obviously, the Raptors just traded OG Anunoby to the Knicks. Siakam is on an expiring deal, and the Pacers are interested in going for Siakam. And that would be very interesting if the Pacers got Siakam, put him at the 4, who the Pacers are a team that have been looking to get a 4. They did go and I guess say Obi Toppin would be the 4 potentially of the future, but now they're looking like they could really do something this season, whereas maybe they didn't expect that coming into the year. So they're going to be a team that I think is in the Pascal Siakam sweepstakes or whatever you want to say. And if we scroll down, we can see what the potential package would be. According to Woj, I believe he said Buddy Hield would be the most likely, you know, salary filler or whatever salary guy in the deal. Obviously, when you're dealing with big contracts like Siakam, you got to kind of match that. So we got Buddy Hield, and then they're saying Jalen Smith would also be needed to make salaries work. So he would be sent to Toronto. And then I would assume, yeah, they're talking picks. I was going to say, you got to give picks if that's what you're giving Buddy Hield and Jalen Smith. It's unknown what the exact pick return would have to be, but one could assume that if the Pacers offer 2 good first round picks and perhaps other young pieces like Isaiah Jackson or Ben Shepherd, I would probably go for Isaiah Jackson. That would be an interesting trade. Before we speed past it and get on to the next topic, that trade I think isn't like perfect for the Pacers, but I think it's something they should definitely do if given the opportunity. You know, Siakam's going to give you solid defense. He's also going to help that scoring that is needed. I guess kind of he could be that second star that you can kind of look to. Well, he definitely would be that. But if we take a look at the NBA standings, obviously it's way too early. I know some of you guys are going to be like, bro, what is Solo talking about? Why even, you know, acknowledging this? But I'm going to look at potential playoff scenarios. Right now, the Pacers have the 4th seed. So they would play, I believe, the 4 seed Miami Heat, if I'm not mistaken. I know it's kind of crazy with the whole play-in. You go to the 10th seed, all that. But if they were to play the Miami Heat, I guess we would have to assume that they would be healthy. Hero and Bam have been looking, you know, better now. They've been looking solid. But Jimmy Butler is just in and out of the lineup. He's always dealing with some injury. And I mean, it's easy to say, yeah, come playoff time, he's going to be there. I don't know. I mean, we'll say it for the sake of this, but the Heat are a team that's banged up. And I mean, we just don't know what to expect. Let's just assume that they're healthy. I think the Pacers could beat the Heat, but again, going back in that playoff experience topic, it's going to be tough because the Heat, what have they been? 2 finals in the last like 4 years. They definitely have playoff experience. I don't think Jimmy, Bam, guess you could even say Hero are really scared of a big moment. I mean, it looks like Halliburton isn't either with this Pacers team, but that would be, I guess, kind of like the best matchup for them, because if they were to play, say, the Sixers, the Bucks, or the Celtics, 1, 2, 3, I think those teams are kind of in a tier of their own where it's like you really don't want to match up against those teams. So if they are drawing the 4 seed, yeah, they could win that. And I think with the Pacers come playoff time, they're just gonna have to be red hot at the right time. They're gonna be one of those teams because, like I said before, if Halliburton isn't playing the best, I think this team just loses. Like, they're not a team where they can really get picked up by other players. Maybe for one game. Maybe there's one game where Buddy Hield goes for 30, or, you know, Mathurin goes for 30 and picks up Halliburton. But this is a team that I think Halliburton's gonna have to play like peak type, like historic type numbers. Like, he's gonna really have to average like close to 30 points, 15 assists, stuff that have we ever seen anyone do that in the playoffs before for this Pacers team to win. So they could win a round. Now, winning a second round, going to the conference finals, I don't really see that happening. It would be cool. It would definitely be fun to see Halliburton in the conference finals. I don't really know if they are going to make it that far. Last night, we had one of the craziest NBA games of the season. And I'm not talking about the Pacers and Bucks. As you guys can see right here, Pistons Jazz. Bro, if you were watching this game, you already know what happened. And let me kind of speed you up to things. So you guys can see, 4th quarter, 12 seconds. It is, I believe, a tied game. We're going to see in a second. I believe it's a tied game. Before this, though, when there was about 40 seconds, maybe 30, 35 seconds, who was it? Clarkson came down and hit a huge three. So I was like, all right, bet. You know what I'm saying? The Jazz got the lead. They might win this. No. Bojan comes down and hits a crazy three with like 20 seconds left. So now it's back tied. And then this is what happens. I'm going to play the video. You guys can see. It's a tie game, 135, 8 seconds. Clarkson going to hit Lauri top of the key, Markkanen for three. The crowd goes crazy. Everyone thinks they just won the game. There's 4 seconds left. The Pistons need a miracle. I don't think they have timeout, so they just got to throw it in and go. Watch what happens. Alec Burks, watch him off the inbound. He gets the ball back, 3 seconds, 2 seconds. He just throws it up and it goes in. Like, the crowd is stunned. Some people are celebrating. The Pistons are celebrating like they just won the NBA Finals. Duran literally picked up Alec Burks. This did go to overtime. And as you could expect, the Jazz ended up winning. I'm like 99% sure. Overtime wasn't as crazy. But the last 40 seconds of this game was insane. Like, it was just trading threes. Like, if you play 2K, obviously a lot of my viewers might be from my 2K channel. It was like they were playing Ruffles, bro. They were trading threes, and it was crazy threes too. Like, it wasn't like, all right, like normal catch and shoot, or like most of these were just like running down the court, just heaves. Like you saw the Alec Burks shot at the end. That shit was crazy. And it, of course, it has to be with two of the lesser known, or not lesser known, but you know what I'm saying, smaller market teams with the Pistons and Jazz. Something else that was crazy from last night, obviously there was a lot of games, as you guys can see. And actually, let me go ahead and do this. You can see the full games. Okay, so look, 5 teams scored over 140 points on the same night. That's the first time that's ever happened, I believe. We had the Cavs with 140, the Pacers with 142, the Hawks with 141. The Thunder almost had it as well. They're at 138. And then where are the other ones? We have the Jazz and the Pistons in this overtime game, went 154, 148. And then the Kings in Orlando almost were also in the 140. So we had the potential to have 8 teams score 140 there. But we had 5, and that's just insane. And of course, we have our Solo Hoops players of the day. Malik Monk went crazy. De'Aaron Fox didn't have the best game. I don't know exactly his stat line, but he didn't have the best game. But Monk went crazy and pretty much got them this win, 138 to 135 in overtime. It was, or actually double overtime, I meant to say. It was a crazy game. Monk had 37, 3, and 9 with a plus minus of plus 14. Gotta give him his flowers. But the other guy that was going absolutely insane, probably had the better game, he definitely had the better game, was Domantas Sabonis. 22 points, 23 boards, 12 assists, a triple-double for Domas. And in the loss for the Magic in this game, Paolo had 43 points. Paolo's been hooping, you know what I'm saying? He started off kind of slow, but these last, like, I'm gonna say like last month, Paolo's really been picking it up. And 43 points in a loss, especially a double overtime loss, that's tough. The Lakers lost to the Heat last night. LeBron didn't have the best game. AD had a pretty good game, 29 points, 17 boards, 6 assists. And as you guys can see right here, he also had 5 blocks, and barely off the screen, he had 3 steals, which is right next to it. So 5 blocks, 3 steals, getting it done defensively, offensively with 29 points, 17 boards. That's just a really good game from AD. But the starters got killed. AD's plus minus is minus 13. That's all you really got to know, because he's playing insane. But you know what I'm saying, the rest of the team, I guess, wasn't. And as I said before, LeBron didn't have the best of games. The Heat end up winning this one. And in that Pistons Jazz game, Clarkson ended up going for 36. So gotta give him a shout out. All right, so the question of the day, I want you guys to go in the comments and answer this. Let me know what you guys are thinking. How far will the Indiana Pacers go come playoff time? If I had to guess, I would say they're a first round exit, but we'll have to see. If they can somehow snag that 4 seed, I think that's going to be huge. Whichever team can get that 4 seed, because 1 through 3, we've talked about it. You know, you got Celtics, Bucks, Sixers in whatever order. It seems like those are going to be the 3 teams at the top, but whoever gets that 4th seed gets that, you know, home court advantage or whatever. That's going to be huge. If the Pacers can get that, yeah, maybe they get out of the first round. We're gonna have to see. But right now, I'll say Pacers get bounced in the first round. Winning the second round is gonna be tough for them. Let me know what y'all think. Sub up. We're about to hit 900 subscribers. Last video went crazy, so I appreciate y'all for the support on that one, and I appreciate all, you know, the people that have been subbing up to this channel. Click the video on your screen right now if you guys haven't seen it yet.